chance. Better men than you've been led this dance. To go, leave me, run like you've never run before. I have seen the worst, and there is nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Rugby podcast, brought to you by the Scottish Rugby blog. I hope you're going to enjoy yourself with this lovely, wonderful podcast we put together. We've got some great guests tonight, or what would we call them?
Conspirators.
Yeah, especially Jonny McGinty with the moustache that he's got on. There's a definite conspiracy.
I'll give you guests.
Anyway, our podcast is part of the Sport Social Network. Don't forget to give us a follow or a like on your favourite podcast app. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to give us a follow on social media. You can find all the links on our site, www.scottishrugbyblog.co.uk. If you're listening on Apple and like what we do, if you please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if that's possible. If you'd like more content, and you want to support what we do, you can subscribe to our Patreon from just £3 a month. That gives you access to our super secret Facebook group and the second part of tonight's podcast, as well as Patreon exclusives. And I have read that out as west as I possibly can, Rory Baldwin, and I'm getting a thumbs up if you're not watching this on the live stream. I'm joined tonight by our regular contributors, sometimes hosts, and good evening, Ian. Hey, you're grimacing. So how are you doing tonight, Ian?
I'm fine. I'm just that webcam light thing. It's not very good. It's not so annoying. Hello, Craig. Hi. Thanks for hosting. I've like my notes are rubbish.
No worries, that's fine. Jonny McGinty is joining us as well. How are you doing, Jonny?
Hello, good evening. I've not got a ring light like influencer Ian Hay, so I've just got like shiny head from the lamps above me. No grimacing for me.
And joining the last but no means least is Rory Baldwin, who is absolutely disappointing me today because he's not got any type of rugby shirt on. And
no,
what have you got on the day?
Just a Queens of the Stone Age t-shirt. You'll notice though, I do have some lovely new wardrobes behind me, which will make an excellent backdrop for hanging. I think I've got a flag. So I think I've got an Edinburgh flag, or did I give it to you?
Yeah. No, I think you've got the Edinburgh flag. You very kindly gave me an Edinburgh shirt, which is kind of
I had like a Stad Francais flag or something, but yeah. But I can hang things on this now, or probably use it as a blue screen and project myself somewhere a lot nicer.
I think I'll let you off with this Queens of the Stone Age t-shirt because that's pretty damn good. So I hope you're going to enjoy our pod tonight. We've got a fair few things to get on with, so we may as well crack on. And let's get on with the news. Hot off the presses today, a fairly major disappointment and also shocking news for our dear friends in the Weege. Tom Jordan. Jonny, Tom Jordan's on his way to Bristol Bears. Bit of a shocker.
Yeah. It really is. And it's a weird one because it was as good as confirmed and then reported as confirmed. And then a few people coming out to say, well, hang on, it was never actually confirmed. So no one seems to know. I mean, I'm assuming that we'll know by this time tomorrow that it's definitely happening. It's a really weird one. Fair play to him for hanging on so long to get a Scotland cap. Like, we'll take that because I'm sure we'll come on to it, but he's well worth having around. But really weird one. A great signing for Bristol, like that'll do wonders for them. And then if they're going to play him at 12, it's somebody else to get a bit of. Well, he's kind of split between the two at Glasgow, and I think they're probably signing him as 10 and 12 cover, and he wasn't going to get a game at 12 at Glasgow. He was probably not going to start at 10. Like, he's in with a shout at start in either of those positions at Bristol. He gets a bit more game time, and that'll be good in the long run for Scotland, but pretty gutting for Glasgow.
Yeah, well, not to plug another podcast, but I've just seen in my feed that the BBC Scotland podcast has come on with what either is their standard pod or an emergency one, talking about Tom Jordan leaving Glasgow. So it looks like it's definitely a thing. Ian Hay, your thoughts on this as a Weege fan and stalwart?
Oh, you know what? It's I've seen this little boy grow up from semi-pro up to where he is now, and obviously I'm delighted at the progress he's made, and it's bad to see a top quality player go, but realistically though, like Jonny was saying, I mean, we've just re-signed Huey Pilotu on contract, so they don't come cheap. There's Staffy McDowell, Adam Hastings has come back in. If he's wanting to be, his only position really is 10. So there's no point in bringing him back. Also, we've seen the SRU have not done very well this year financially. So Jordan would be commanding a much higher salary than his deal from when he signed on Super 6 and from the last one. Sometimes you just need to let these things let the little birds fly away.
Are you saying
I wish him all the best.
Are you saying that Bristol are paying for Mark Dodson's golden handshake?
Oh, I mean, goodness, it's probably like one finger of the handshake. More on that later once I get to Patreon.
Absolutely. I'm sure.
Well, we're gutted to see him go, but he's the versatile man. He's more than admirably filled in a position which isn't his natural position, and he's obviously just an incredibly talented player. Freeing up wages, frees up the 10 spot for a newbie come in. For example, Richie Simpson, who I think is the next cab off the rank and one who needs game time at a higher level to develop.
So Rory Baldwin, an opportunity maybe to start a rumour that Ben Healy might want to be going along the M8. Seeing as
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, he was all Glasgow were always the ones that wanted him. He just ended up taking him because Glasgow didn't have any room, and like they had Tom Jordan so they didn't bother. I mean, personally, I'm delighted to see the back of him because I don't watch much Premiership rugby, and I find it really hard to tell the difference between him and Jamie Dobie and Kyle Rowe with their identical mullets. So with the wee pointy bit at the front. So
Jordan doesn't have a mullet.
They've all got the same haircut. So
it's a very broad definition of the same haircut, Rory.
Yeah.
It's like
Kiwi racism. It's like Kiwis have mullets.
The Ireland backline of the sort of noughties where they all have the same haircut. They all look the same.
Yeah,
Kiwis and Kiwis.
I think it's also quite nice to have Glasgow fans talking about just one thing about Johnny Matthews rather than both Johnny Matthews and Tom Jordan. So it'll be quite nice to
I mean, it's
shut up
like
about one thing.
there's a few
Wait,
people.
Kyle
a few
Rowe.
people-
Have you heard me going on about Kyle
Oh,
Rowe?
sorry, I
Jesus.
forgot Kyle Rose there. Yeah, okay.
Josh Mackay.
Oh, here we go.
Aye, he's got the same haircut as well.
Oh, Josh Mackay. Oh,
So anyway, before that
The
all starts,
bitterness dripping off you, man.
let's move on and talk about another Glasgow Warriors issue. Scott Cummings, after the debacle at the weekend, more on that later, has received a 1 week ban, a 2 week ban reduced to 1 week because he admitted that that he did what they made up that he did.
Why did he do that?
I know, this is what I don't understand. He admitted what Rory Darge originally was accused of doing, and then he actually got the punishment because Rory Darge doesn't get the punishment.
Basically,
Johnny, what's the story, man?
well, basically, he admitted it because he knew if he admitted it, it was 2 weeks, and they knew because of his disciplinary record, it was going to be down to 1 week. He knew he was never playing against Portugal anyway. What's conspired to happen here is World Rugby have as close as possible said, "Aye, sorry lads, we got that one wrong," without having to throw the refereeing team under the bus. Because I would be very, very surprised if in the pre-minutes to his disciplinary they'd said, "Look, we're looking at 2 weeks as long as you say it was me. We'll cut it to 1 week. We'll have it over with. He'll be back for Australia." Because it should never have happened. They've conspired between them a way to make it look like he's been punished without kind of chucking the referees under the bus, without him actually being punished because he wasn't never playing this game anyway. And it's like, right, it's done. We're washing our hands of it because the entire thing was just debacle's a great word, Craig. That's exactly what it was.
I'm sure we'll talk about this later on. But Ian, what type of biscuit do you think he's taking along to get his ban reduced to 1 week? It's got to be a Foxy's chocolate selection, or
no, I actually said, I think in reply to Scotland Rugby News, I said Scott Cummings is he's not a man to adhere to cliches, so he actually took a nice he took a selection of beans. There were some savouries. Right. There was a donut or two as well. You know, beef and pork sausage rolls, the macaroni pie.
Do you know if he took a beans macaroni pie, then he's stuck on to 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, I think
he was like, wait.
Hang on, Rory, what you say?
Said, I just think in Johnny's scenario, it's World Rugby are bringing the biscuits.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But Scott Cummings comes across as someone who hasn't been in a Greggs or a Baines in his life before. To be honest with you, it's more of he looks like he likes a nice bistro.
No, I reckon Scott Cummings knows his way around a savoury like.
He loves a cockle van. No. Anyway, we'll move on. The SRU annual report has been released, and some of the highlights have been they generated £73.9 million in income and managed to lose 11.3 of it. Includes £1 million set aside for redundancies. Interesting. The plan for 24 to 25 is to reduce their losses to just 3.8 million, and then break even in the 25 and 26 year. Rory, what's going on here, man? How are they managing to take in £73.9 million and still lose 11.3?
I tell you what's happened is they're keeping it all in their pockets. And then the number of times the Scotland rugby team has shot themselves in the foot, so many holes, money falls out of their pockets, through the holes, and away down the drain.
Seems that's 11 points.
Other than that, I have no idea. I mean, I remember the days when Gordon Mackay was in charge, and we're 28 million in debt, and then we weren't 28 million in debt, and that was seen as a good thing. I mean, I guess debt is probably just a natural way of doing business these days.
Seems to be.
I don't know who all the severance packages are, because Dodson would have had his surely last year, maybe not.
Yeah, but was he a
redundant? Kept some aside for.
Yeah,
I think this is the concerning thing is the £1 million put aside for redundancies. Obviously, there's a bit of pain to come still because they've obviously got a plan in place to reduce down the losses. But Ian, with people like Taylor Swift coming along, the boss, and now Robbie Williams, surely they should be able to make some sort of at least break even.
I mean, I think we'd need Taylor Swift to do a residency. I really don't see how Robbie Williams is going to plug that hole. I don't know. We
It's
could
not just Robbie Williams, Billy Joel as well.
Oh,
and Oasis as well.
One night, though,
they've got Oasis for two nights, one night. Do they not?
I hope they've got good insurance because that'll be cancelled when they fight. They'll split
but
up.
Still, however, I think though that with possibly the exception of Billy Joel, I mean, the whole, there's a whole like Taylor Swift tourism industry. You know, they stay at the hotels, they go to fancy restaurants, they spend money in nice bars, go to cocktail things and all this. You know, I think
she apparently generated a fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Swiftonomics, that was the term I heard on like CNN once.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't necessarily think that Robbie Williams can generate that kind of turnover, or even Oasis. We're probably going to be clearing up smashed bottles of Bucky.
Street sweeping for that one, I'll be.
Yeah. So,
but we know how we've lost quite a lot of money. It's due to financial mismanagement. Speculating to accumulate and then not accumulating. You know, there's a redundancy write-off $1 million a couple of years ago. I can't remember what they didn't actually call it. They didn't use the term write-off, but the money that they invested in Old Glory, they went, it's not a write-off. We're just not paying attention to it. It's not there. Like like £1.5 million over 2 years. Aye, that's business for you, isn't it?
It's a bit like
COVID. COVID smashed things for a good bit, but
yeah. They got a nice payment from the government though that would help them out with COVID. Though that's the only thing, and I don't know if we're not going to talk about that because
they'll pay it back.
Yeah. Well, I think they did say they paid it back, or there was something in the report about paying something.
Mark Dawson probably said they'd paid it back, but they paid it back by offsetting it against things on this.
Well, that's the thing, though.
At one point, did the government not say they were recalling it because the SRU weren't doing what they were supposed to do?
Yeah, well, there was that. And talking about not doing what they're really supposed to do, and Dodsonomics, Jonny, you know, they've said that a lot of the money they've spent is on upgrades, etc., for Murrayfield, which a lot of our female friends and wives, etc., and know that that's not been done because they still have to queue around the block for the toilets.
Hang on though. Have you been in any of the hospitality suites recently? Because I have, and they are nice. So
that's
when they say they've upgraded.
I forgot that you spend your Tory bonuses on going into the posh seats, Jonny. But
excuse me, I was there at the community game conference furthering the cause of grassroots rugby. Craig Manson.
Nice. Okay. Right. So at Dodson, he still pocketed £800,000 bonus for leaving Scottish rugby supposedly in a good state. You know, it's a pretty galling thing to hear that sort of thing going on, Jonny.
Yeah, it is. And the kind of awkward and annoying thing about it is because of the sort of person that Dodson is and the way he ran the SRU, I've got absolutely no doubt that he did hit all the targets he had to make that bonus. I don't think that he's got that bonus for nothing. I think he's been given targets to hit them and got that bonus and still left 11 million quid of debt. So I don't know. It's rough, but I don't pretend to know enough about it to say like, oh, this is a really serious thing when it could just be like Iain says, it's like debt's a part of business. Like there's things that we own that technically are debt. I mean, the rent on Hampden for the 1872, that's going to technically be debt. There will be other facilities that technically are going to be debt. And so I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about it, but it does seem weird that he got a massive bonus and the union's in a bunch of debt. But I don't like because
it was a bonus as such. I think it was more
severance.
I don't think it was. Yeah, his contract ended before his contract was meant to end mutually. Yeah, but he still somehow takes a whole wedge of cash out of him. Yeah.
According to our
Sorry.
chums at the offside line, the Scottish government thing was the terms of their 20 million COVID bailout dictated that they couldn't accept bonuses until the 5 million low interest loan segment of that payment was paid back, which meant that the 676,000 that Dodson got the previous financial year must have been all salary because it couldn't have been a bonus.
Well, that's for the government to maybe look into.
Was there not things like where? Well, I think was it not a few years ago his salary was like only 450, like basic, but then with all his bonuses it added up to 937 or something like daft amount, and that was the year that he managed to get us like fined by suggesting that some of our friends across the sea always refer to it as he threatened to sue a tornado. He didn't. He just said he was going to take legal advice against the tornado. And then we got a 75 grand fine, and none of that came out of his bonuses, did it? Like, that 75 grand fine, none of that came out of his bonuses, did it?
I will defend Dodson on this because, and I know it's like ridiculous and it's a good like vein of comedy which we have ourselves indulged in before, but the people he was taking legal advice against were World Rugby. And we need to be absolutely clear here that in a sport full of baddies, the baddiest of baddies are World Rugby. So actually, people should be lauding us for suggesting that we would take on World Rugby in court instead of taking the piss and saying we tried to sue the weather. Just going to chuck that out there because I know we do love to sue the weather jokes, and we do as well. But just remember who the real baddies are.
Okay, so we'll go. There is a bigger chunk of news that we're going to miss out on at the moment. We're going to save that for the Patreon, and that is the Scotland squad has been announced for the Portugal game. But we're going to move on at the moment. And Iain, with all the eyes focused on the Autumn Nations series at the moment, who are the leading lights at the moment in the Scottish Prem, women and men and women's Prem? How is the club game going? As much as you know. You cover a fair few of the games yourself.
I do mainly down the west. I've not been able to go as many because my ankle's goosed. But the weekend there, I was down at Ayr v Hoyk. And of course, Hoyk, who second last year, champions the year before of the Scottish Prem. But this is before the Super 6 big boys came down. So they are Ayr. It finished 59-7 to Ayr, right? Which sounds like an absolute ass whipping, because it is a bit of an ass whipping. Ayr are 10 for 10. But there was a little spell where there was like a 20-minute spell where it could have gone. It was 19-7 at the time because Ayr scored 2 early tries. Hoyt came back into it and looked threatening. Then there was like they didn't take advantage of a sin binning. And after that, like just the strength and depth of Ayr, terrifying. They bring guys off the bench who are Super 6 players. They're romping it. We're seeing a bit of a major split. We predicted that, to be honest. So Ayr are 10 for 10. The Heriots, they've won 9 out of 10 games. Watsonians have won 7 out of 10. I think one of their losses was to Heriots. Also, one of their losses was to Curry. Now, Curry were last year's champions. After 4 rounds, they were looking like potential relegation fodder, but they're the form team at the moment. Gave Hawks a doing at the weekend at Balgrey as well. Right. Hawks have been kind of middling along, but we are definitely seeing this. Obviously, the Super 6 boys, they are top quarter. Melrose, I think Melrose are still waiting on some people coming back, or they didn't commit after the Southern Nats disbanded. And then you've sort of got a middling bunch, and then then down the bottom we've got one of the teams down at the bottom just now is Mar, who 3 seasons ago champions, but they were like a feeder team for the Bulls. So there's a lot of transitioning going on in the Premiership landscape. On the women's side, Corstorphine romping it. They've already qualified for the final. 100% record. The only time they've not taken bonus points was a couple of weeks ago. They beat County 2019 at Bridge Hall, I think it was at Bridge Hall. That's the only time they've not taken bonus points. So they are. If you think the men's Premiership is divided, the women's Premiership is if the men's premiership's in 3s, women's is in 2. Basically, you've got the teams who are well established who are dominating, and then teams who need leveling up, shall we say? So we're seeing the Christopherson, Alex Stewart is obviously one of the starlights there. I imagine it'll be them and County in the final, unless Watsonians can pull off a surprise result, or maybe even Hill Gills. But I imagine it'll be the Cougars and County again. It's like Rangers Celtic.
Well, I'm not so sure. What's the Scottish Rugby podcast without Ian Hay talking about football at some point? It's
yeah, man. Don't make me talk about Real Madrid. I'll go on about Real Madrid if I have to.
No, we'll keep that for the Patreon.
I'll just fade it out again.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that, Ian. What we want to do is try
the Vinny
and
Junior tag.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is make sure that we're keeping in touch with the amateur game as well. We do a lot of talking about Edinburgh, Glasgow, and also the international game. But we do want to try and keep in touch with the amateur game as well. So if anyone and the uni game, well, we are sponsors of Stirling Uni at the moment, but we're hopefully going to have a couple of lads on from Stirling next week who will keep us up to date with what's going on with the uni side of things. So we'll make a move on and talk about the elephant in the room. Jonny, Scotland, South Africa. The Box took the win at 32-15. Many fans, including Townsend himself, are proud of our team and the performance. Are you?
No. No, I mean, they played well. They did, and it was probably the most cohesive that I've seen Scotland in a really long time. That one person in particular saying he's proud of the team irks me a little bit. I didn't want to go into my Toonie out rant this early, but I'm going to anyway. This is going to sound like I'm blowing smoke up Glasgow, Craig, and I'm really trying not to.
Oh, come on! Why change a habit of a lifetime?
Insight, like foresight, more sight. The clock on the wall reads a quarter past.
Is that the Tuesday clock one? I don't know what the hell that was.
I forgot that was even there. We have to think about the fact that Glasgow played 21 of the 23 members of that Springboks team in the last 6 months in South Africa. Won 2 of them, including one for the championship, lost 1 by 2 points. Right? Those are performances that I'm proud of. You get into a Scotland camp, you get the majority of that Glasgow squad in, you're adding arguably 2 of the most talented backs in the world into that team. Finn Russell's in the conversation to be the best player overall in the world. Blair Kinghorn is a European champion who is absolutely on fire at Toulouse. You're adding Duhan van der Merwe into that team, who is way above average in his position. You're adding Pierre Schumann, who is significantly better than anything that Glasgow have got at Loosehead, and it's getting worse. How's that happening? There's only one person who could be responsible for the fact that you're taking a team that's capable of beating South Africa, adding better players to it, and making the team worse. So don't come and tell me you're proud of the performance.
That's a bit harsh on Grant Gilchrist.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. Surely, though, Rory, we've had we're looking at a situation where we kept in the game all the way through. They brought on their much vaunted bomb squad, came on 7 of them, or at least 5 of them all at once, or 6 of them all at once, and we actually then started rocking them backwards. Surely, we as people have said, the score line doesn't tell the tale of the game.
I think that's probably fair. It sort of reminded me of the autumn internationals that you would watch like 10 years ago, where Scotland would sort of, just because it was a home rugby game and the crowd were onside, and they would front up for about an hour, and then a couple of late scores, or even a couple of scores in the last 10 minutes would put a gloss on the scoreline, and you'd be thinking, oh, we're getting better, we're getting there. And it kind of reminded me of that. But I think with this group of players, as Jonny said, we should be expecting a bit more. I mean, it seemed like a close game for most of the actual game, but South Africa did a lot of things as badly as I've seen South Africa do in recent years. Scotland's defence was brilliant, but still conceded 4 tries somehow. It was a bit of a strange one because there was a lot of stuff going on, not just with the officiating, but with the kind of logic of the game that just didn't make sense. It was an oddball.
Yeah, and Iain, the question is though, I question this on a regular basis: are we just not in that top 3, top 4 teams in the world? Are we punching above our weight now, and we're never going to get to that point where we are going to go up against South Africa and we're going to continually beat them and get to a point where we're getting to top 3 in the world, no matter what coach we have?
I think with the personnel we have, and like Jonny said, you look at how Glasgow have performed against them. You look at how, a sorely underperforming England team have given them a couple of frights in the last 12 months. They nearly knocked them out of the World Cup. And it seems to be a psychological thing where we can't finish teams off. Like, we'll move the referees out of the equation for this moment in time, even though some of the decisions were appalling.
We'll come to that.
I think it was the right choice to kick our goals at time. Just to while we were in touch. Whereas usually we would go for the jugular, and then there would be a typical skewed line out 5 metres from the line. But yes, we battled hard. We showed we were physical against them. Then bomb squad came on earlier than we would have expected, and still the back row fronted up well. It's just when we got to the replacements in the front row, then we started conceding penalties, and that concedes territory. You concede territory to the box. That's when you're in deep doo-doo, and that's how they scored their points. You give them a sniffy try line from 50 metres. They're like sharks, but actual sharks, not the team. They're going to turn the screw and punish you. We didn't take our chances. I think we were like probably 3 correct decisions away from taking the lead. The Hugh Jones missed a couple of. The one where he threw over Duhan's head was an absolute shocker. I think there was another moment in there.
Yeah, Hugh Jones is
these
fallible. Is he human? Hugh Jones finally. The question though is, sorry, when you go, mate. When you go.
As a line, his line breaks were excellent. We know that he's a great strike runner, and to do it against the best defensive team in the world, he was making breaks, he was making meters, and then it'd just be that last decision. That this is the thing with Scotland, always that you have 1 chance or 2 chances in these games. You need to sink him. If you don't sink him, they're going to come back and get you, and that's what happened. He was like 2 passes away from a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, I think, but then what does point towards poor coaching or missed opportunities when it comes to coaching is 2 things to me. First of all, we've got one of the best back lines in the world, really, because no matter what anyone says, you've got Duhan on one wing, you've got Hugh Jones, Siona Tuipulotu, you've got Finn Russell, you've got Ben White, and we couldn't score any tries against them. We scored 1, but it was brought back and chalked off. The second thing for me, and one of the most annoying things, and I'm going to bring up forwards because it's not the Scottish Rugby podcast without me bringing up forwards, is we're on the 5 metre line. We're throwing okay in the line out. We get a line out, and we continually throw it to the back, and they just we mess it up. And they get the ball back. For me, we continually, every game that we've watched, they get to the 5 metre line, they have a line out, and they throw the ball to the back. Now, whoever's calling that and continuing to call that needs a slap in the head, because I would far rather see the ball go to the front and use it that way than throw it to the back. I know that there's reasons behind it, but if you're going to continually throw it to the back, you've got to catch the bloody thing.
No, you're having a pop at Grant Gilchrist.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it is, and we have to. It's either coaching or it's as we've talked, as you just said, Ian. It's players not making the right decisions at the right time. But I just find that difficult. But anyway, I'm meant to be asking the questions, not having a rant about lineouts. Yeah. So Jonny, Christoph Ridley, and Tempo, the TMO. People have said they've lost us the game. I've got my own thoughts on that, but did they lose us the game? We'll talk about maybe the decision in a minute, but what was your thoughts on that?
No, I'm fairly consistent in my opinion that a referee cannot lose you a game. We did plenty of things differently that we could have won the game. If Hugh Jones had hit Duhan van der Merwe, we'd have won that game. If that line out had functioned on the 5 metre line, we'd have won that game. If we'd maybe, and I think Ian's right about kicking the goals, but I think during that period in the sort of third 20, where we really had them on the ropes, if we'd gone to the corner with that one and scored, then we'd have won the game. It's a bit of sort of abdication of your own duty to say that the refereeing team lost you the game, because a refereeing team cannot lose you a game. Now, that doesn't mean that their officiating was good or proper or didn't leave anything to be desired on Sunday, because it absolutely did. But that's not the only problem. You can't just go, oh, well, if I'd been for the referees, we'd have won. That's like, at the very top level of international sport, I'm sorry, but that doesn't really cut it. Yeah.
And Rory Darge, no. Cummings did the croc roll. No, it was Rory Darge did the croc roll. No, it was Cummings that did the croc roll. Was it a croc roll? Come on.
I mean, I've no idea. It looked like when you watch it back, it looks like Cummings is trying to clear out the ruck, and then another South African who's sort of in the way, kind of gets up and disrupts his passive movement, and that kind of knocks him over, and he lands on Mostert's leg. I mean, he is still trying to pull the guy's head off, so there's something going on, but I mean, it looked like him and Darge were both equally culpable of what was going on. And like when even Victor Matfield is saying that there was nothing in it, and you'd think he'd be the first to stick up for a South African lock if it was serious foul play. I think Jonny was right earlier. The fact that the kind of the disciplinary hearing and the punishment meted out after the fact has been pretty minimal. I mean, I don't think that decision cost us the game. I forgot it was 20-minute red card, so I was just sitting there thinking, okay, well, now that is screwed, because 10 minutes of the game with 15 men would have got hammered. They could have brought the bomb squad on at 20 minutes and beaten us. But I mean, yeah, I think there were loads of there were strange decisions, like again, we're talking about the 20-minute card. We're talking about the new rules or new law kind of enhancements or whatever. I like the fact that he called use it because the scrum half was mucking about at the back of the ruck, but the fact that he only called it for Ben White, and he called it in such a position that instantly gave the Boks an attacking scrum in the like bang on our 22. It's unbalanced. He didn't, you think, okay, you're setting an example to show you're going to be clamping down on this, but then he didn't really for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
it was, and the thing with the knock on as well, at the knock on where he shouted, came off his foot, and then he was like, if you watch the replay, he's sitting doing a little dance where he's consistently raising his leg up and tapping his ankle as if to say, yeah, it was off his foot. He's off his foot. It's fine. Then he whistles up, says knock on. And then they go to the TMO. There's no clear evidence, certainly on the broadcast replay, that it went off anything other than a foot. And then he says, right, scrum South Africa in front of the posts. I mean, it was probably just as well that South Africa were actually taking the game seriously at that point, and they kicked the goals rather than apparently Rassie was screaming for them to take another scrum, and then obviously we would have looked like idiots, and they would have got a penalty try or something that would have put even more of a gloss on it. But it's just, it was just sort of, it was inconsistent, and we hate inconsistent refs.
I feel like we probably should say as well that there were some fairly egregious ones the other way. One of the South African forwards got pinged in a line out for tackling the lifter when he clearly hit Matt Fagerson as he was coming down to the ground and he was the jumper. Like, this isn't like we were screwed by the referee, all the calls went South Africa's way thing.
No.
He just... And like, I like Christoph Ridley. I've watched him a lot in the Prem, and he's usually a fairly capable referee. I think you can say that, but also accept the fact that he had a bit of a howler on Sunday in all directions. Like, he didn't pick on Scotland. He definitely didn't cost Scotland the game. He just wasn't having his best game.
And he wasn't helped by the TMO.
And how many times? No. Oh, yeah. I've got a different opinion on Ian Tempest to my opinion on Christoph Ridley. That's for sure. How many times have we said this? Like, I should just get a recording of myself saying this. He was having a really not very good game. His decisions were inconsistent and pretty ropey. And for the 6,747,236th time, the opposition reacted better to that than Scotland did. Like, when Scotland get a bad referee, Scotland can't cope with it. South Africa did a better job of coping with it, and that's how they managed to pull away at the end.
Yeah, I think we must have almost like a reputation as a penalty factor. I saw Kevin Miller, formerly of this parish, had put up a stat about the Six Nations penalty counts and how it was like ridiculous in terms of Scotland gave away the most penalties and received the fewest penalties by a considerable margin in last year's or this year's Six Nations. And we need to find a skipper that can handle that. I mean, Etzebeth's going up to the ref and asking for reviews of stuff. You know, we don't have anyone doing that.
Yeah, I think there's Ian.
Jamie Ritchie would then get yellow carded.
Well, yeah, he came on and gave away a penalty.
Yeah, but Ian, that you know, there has been talk online that see we need to get a captain who can talk to the referee because Sione couldn't. I didn't really see much input on that. I didn't see much evidence of that. I thought Sione was pretty good with the referee.
I mean, like, Sione's not a quiet guy. You know, you see him playing for Glasgow, even when he's not captain. You know, he's a choppy guy. You know, that's one thing they said about him. He brings a lot of energy to the team.
Yeah.
And he usually speaks very respectfully to the referee. He doesn't get in trouble like some other people, like Jamie Ritchie. No, and I think he was. You know, he has a word in the ear, but you know, if you go too far, then gets the referee offside. I just think, you know, like Jonny said, it's a bad day at the office. What I also think is that, you know, if you are going to have a relatively young and inexperienced referee in the middle, you need to have experience outside of him. And you had Craig Evans on one wing, Hempel in the TMO box. I can't remember who was doing the other touchline. But you know, Evans and Ridley are relatively fresh, and they are up against some of the champions of the dark arts. You know, it needs strong referees in the middle, people who aren't going to go on reputation. And unfortunately, I think that's what occasionally happens, and I think it happened this time. And I think the red card, right? What annoys me with the red card is to begin with, when they say, "Oh, it's going to bunker review for a croc roll," it's not a croc roll because there's no lateral shift. You know, you even see like Cummings when he makes contact is over the shoulder, then he drops under. There's Jaden Henriksen hits him from behind, and that's how he ends up going on to the lower limb of Mostert. Mostert makes no complaint about foul play. You know, for them to say there was no mitigation when somebody's pushed Scott Cummings onto the leg and also Darges on the other side, affecting Mostert's balance that way. You know, I think it was a ridiculous call at the time, and I just think they're covering their asses by just giving Scott Cummings a 1 week ban.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I was absolutely taken aback by the fact that first of all it was a yellow, and then when they came on and said it's a red card, I thought that was absolutely a joke. But then I'm a forward and I like to smash things, so that's a different story. But right, we'll leave it at that. We've had a good 46 minutes there, and I promised to keep it to 40. So I've broken my promise, Rory. I'm sorry. We're going to move on. Yeah,
You go on longer if you want, because the 40 thing is to do with the adverts. It means you don't have to automatically. But I don't mind. I'll cut a wee hole when there's an awkward silence. I'll just put an advert in there. So if you want to go on for another 5 minutes,
You have the tackle to watch.
Well, all the lovely people who have tuned in don't give us any money. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on and go to the Patreon side of things and talk about the team announcement and also do our hands in the ruck. And the last thing to do is to just have a wee thought for Dougal O and have a spot on. And for me, the spot on to comment this week, I was really quite taken aback, and you'll all laugh because you know how much I love Pierre Schumann, but fear is my fuel. It's got to be the spot on. I thought that was a wonderful comment, and
the whole thing was brilliant. You're not trying to win for yourself; you're trying to win for your team as well. I really liked.
Yeah, he's just a walking. What's the word? What would you call? Anyway, he's almost like one of these those movies of the week in America. You just want to hug him regularly. So anyway, that's our spot on for the week. I'm not taking anyone else's input because Pierre Schumann rules. And we're going to move on to our patrons. Thank you so much to Jonny McGinty, Rory Baldwin, and Ian Hay for joining and helping me out tonight. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. We are looking for help and friends to work with us. If you are interested in getting involved and writing some bits and pieces for the blog, and then maybe even coming on here to help us out, please visit the Scottish Rugby blog and have a wee look through what's done on the blog and see if you can put any input into it as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Good night.
Ciao.
Bye.
Do you want to do it, Jonny, or shall I?
I'm doing it now.
Okay, I'll not do it then.
He's doing it now.
Do it
right now.
Do it.
Do it now.